Here are a few working cars made with Clockwork, which is an add-on for Valkyrien Skies and Create Mod. They use real moving parts, and things like weight distribution and friction have to be considered when building one. I'll be showing how each one drives, as well as how you can bring them into your own world with schematics, and I'll also explain how the material you use in your wheels affects performance. By the end of this video, you'll know the basics of how cars work in this mod, and you'll be ready to start building your own. Okay, so this is a small and simple car. There's absolutely nothing fancy about it, and it doesn't have any neat features or anything. It's controlled simply by these levers that each activate a clutch. So this lever in the middle stops everything, and let's say I want to turn right, I flick the right lever and it stops the wheels on the right side from spinning. Though it's very basic, this is a good design to study if you're trying to learn how cars work to eventually build your own. So how do wheels affect performance? Well, first off, the diameter matters. If we have a shaft rotating at a given speed, a larger diameter wheel will cover more distance than a smaller one, but it'll also be harder for the engine to move a larger wheel, so we have to find a balance. Of course, shape also plays a role, with a more square wheel giving you a bumpier ride and a rounder wheel a more smooth one. Recently added was each block having its own friction, so a wheel made of blocks with higher friction will have a better grip than if it were made from blocks with lower friction. To demonstrate this, let's take two of the same car and give one high friction wheels and the other low friction wheels. The materials chosen have the same mass, so the only variable is friction. The red car will have cobbled deep slate wheels, which have a relatively high friction of 0.8, whereas the blue car will have polished deep slate wheels, which have a relatively low friction of 0.35. Alright, so let's race them and see what happens. Alright, so both cars launch. No difference is apparent yet. It looks like the red car is a little bit behind actually. Will the red car catch up with more friction? Oh, it looks like the red car is veering off a little bit, and it looks like the blue car will pass the finish line first, though it's not a huge difference. I tried to gather some more data points because this is a scientific experiment after all, but as you can see, not all my experiments went as planned, and some were downright catastrophic. I was curious to see if the effect of the wheel's friction would be more apparent at a higher speed, so I set the RPM to 256, and this is what happened. I still needed a way to make sure the cars went straight, so I went back to the drawing board and made some long, narrow tracks. This worked, and again the results were very close. The verdict seems to be that the different wheel friction is negligible when driving on concrete, which has a friction of 0.4. To better illustrate the effects of wheel friction, I decided to devise a new experiment. This time the cars would compete on blue ice, which has a friction of 0. In this experiment, you can see that wheel friction does have an effect because the blue car is spinning a lot more than the red car while trying to turn on the blue ice. And now we'll compare both cars driving in a straight line, and we can see that the red car was much faster from the get-go with its higher friction wheels. So while wheel friction might not play much of a role on typical surfaces, it definitely comes into play when driving in slippery conditions. Alright, so let's say you like this car and you want to bring it into your own world. Simply take the schematic, right click, and then scroll down to the check mark to place it. Alright, so now we need to turn the car into a physics object. To do this, we simply place the physics infuser, then grab the auric designator and right click on this piece of wool, and then on this second piece of wool. Now we've designated our area. Now the third step is to right click on the physics infuser. Now we simply wait for the animation to finish. Alright, so these shafts have started spinning. Let's just flick this lever here twice and that'll stop them. We don't need these anymore, so we destroy them. So press F3 plus B and that'll show the hitboxes. This confirms that we turned our car into a physics object. So you'll notice that there's no wheels. This is because schematics can't support multiple physics objects, and anything attached to a physics bearing, such as a wheel, is considered a physics object. So now let's add our wheels. I like to do this by adding one block and then activating the physics infuser. Then I can build the rest of the wheel on the initial block. To build the rest of the wheel, I just flick this lever to get the wheels to turn over. And there we go, we have our fully assembled car ready to drive. In case you want to check out these cars in your own world, I'll be providing schematics of the central portion of each of the 3 cars that I've built. But because of the limitations of schematics, you'll have to manually add things like wheels and steering mechanisms. I will, however, have a world download containing my completed builds available on my Patreon, which I'll link in the description. Now let's move on to the second car that I'm going to show you. This one is a bit bigger and uses a command seat to control the car. The controls are more sophisticated as well. This one reverses the direction of the wheels on one side when it turns, and it can also easily reverse. Overall, the design is easier to maneuver. Another advantage of the increased size is that you can more easily add survival-friendly power sources as well as utility add-ons, as we'll see in just a bit. To make the car survival friendly, I brought in the schematic of my steam engine and turned it on. I then infused everything with physics. Once that was done, I added the wheels and took it for a test drive. I wanted to see if I could play farming simulator in Minecraft, so I put some plows on a spinning contraption under the car. The plows have to spin because they only work when on a moving contraption, and the car by itself doesn't count as one. Plowing the fields worked well enough, even though it's far from the most efficient way to do things. I then wanted to use my car to plant some seeds with deployers, but unfortunately that didn't seem to work, so I made an efficient gantry contraption to plant and fertilize the field. I then swapped out the plows for harvesters, and now I was ready to reap my harvest. I also added some mechanical drills to the front to show you they can also break blocks this way. In breaking the remains of the gantry contraption, I also harvested some wheat, but I was confused as to why it was falling on the ground instead of being deposited in the chest I had put on the car. After some investigation, I realized that I had forgotten that the chest had to be directly on the spinning contraption, so I added some and saw that the harvest was now politely deposited there instead of inconsiderately falling on the ground. I finished harvesting the wheat and was satisfied that it was indeed possible to play farming simulator inside of Minecraft. Before we move on to the next car, a word of warning. I tried cutting down a tree with mechanical saws attached to my car, and I encountered a bug where my car stopped moving and I could no longer disembark from it. I had to leave the game and my world actually rolled back a few seconds when I later rejoined. So no chopping down forests for now. Alright, so before I show you the last car that I built, I wanted to show you a build by Jaxilla. So this is a car that has 4-wheel steering, so all 4 wheels turn, and this car can go both forwards and backwards. This thing is a lot of fun to drive, and it's an absolute drift machine. You can have a lot of fun with this, just sliding around. You have this back ramp that opens when you press shift, so that works with the mechanical bearing. So we can go in here and we can see there's plenty of room for your animals, your friends, and you can also drive it from the inside. And F5 gives us a pretty good point of view. Wow, what a fun build. Alright, so my last car actually comes in 2 versions, each with a slightly different way of steering. So what I've done is I've set up 2 prototypes here to better illustrate how each one's steering works. So here's the first one. This is a simpler design. So this basically has just one long shaft that both wheels are connected to. So what we have is we have these pistons right here, and what these do is they block the shaft from moving. So when we want to go straight, we activate the pistons, and when we want to turn, we deactivate the positions, and then when we want to go straight, we activate the clutch and we reactivate the pistons. And these are just basic Minecraft pistons, they aren't create mod pistons. Alright, and now for the second design. So this one has the wheels each turning independently. So this is a bit more like how an actual car works. It's not the same rack and pinion system, but it's somewhat similar in that each wheels turn by themselves and they're not just at the opposite sides of a shaft like the other one. So this one is quite similar. We have 2 physics bearings to power, and we have to have more pistons. So it takes a piston on each side of the shaft to return it to the central position. So I can just go ahead and deactivate those, and by activating the gear shift, I can turn in a different direction. Okay, so this is what the finished car looks like. So it actually has the propulsion out here on the front. It's not the most elegant design, but it's what works. So we just have a creative motor going into a clutch and a gear shift. So there's a bunch of redstone. This one works with a wireless controller. So I can go ahead and sit here and right click on this control that's on the lectern. And if I press backwards, I go backwards. If I press forward, I go forward. Yeah, so this is what we mean when the mod is in alpha or beta or whatever version we're in. Okay. What? Why is that? Doesn't make any sense that it's going up and down like that. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. All right, let's try to fix this situation. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna hop back on again. Okay, it's not even supposed to be able to move in that way. I'm not even pressing anything right now. I do not understand. I do not understand what the problem is. Okay, what if we... These are locked right now, so I'm gonna unlock them. I have no idea if this is gonna fix the problem. Hey. Okay, that worked. One thing that I love about this mod is that the torque that you apply actually moves the whole thing. So it's not just like you're moving the part that you want to move. It actually reacts. It actually moves the rest of it, just like it should in real life. So good job on the devs for that. That's some cool physics in action. All right, so I gotta flip this back over. I'm actually gonna put the physics bearings back on locked. What this does is, no, let's fix that. And the reason why I put them on locked is it's just more stable and it just works better when it's locked, because it's like it slips more. It's like it cares too much about the mass of the wheel and it's slower to start off when you're at unlocked. When it's locked, it just works. I don't know what the technical way of saying it is. It just works more like you want it to work. That's basically maybe the best way to explain it. All right, so this thing has all-wheel drive. Okay, it's acting up again. It wasn't doing this before. I'm just gonna go ahead and unlock the wheels. At least it's the right side up now. Actually, I'll put everything to unlocked and we can see what that looks like. We can see what the difference is. So see, it kind of just like spins more and it's slower to get going. That's because it's unlocked. So we fixed our problem. So yeah, I just wanted to show you this car. This is a very basic, it's a larger car. You need a bit more room when you want to have the steering that's set up this way. So yeah, it drives like a normal car. You can go forwards and you can reverse, and you can also turn when you reverse. The only thing is this is not like a typical car because the front, I guess, axle is connected, and both wheels, they rotate. Both wheels rotate around common center. Whereas with my other design, this one here is a bit more complex. So it's a bit more complex. It actually needs a power source for each wheel. So I would say that both these builds are not survival friendly, at least not until we have something that can transfer rotational power between two physics objects. So this one actually has the wheels locked, I believe. Actually, let's check. I think they're locked. Yeah, they are locked, so they behave a bit more. They're a bit more responsive since they're locked. And there you go. You can drive around just like that. Let's see if we can make this go a little bit faster. So this is the steering motor. So this just controls how fast the wheels will turn. So I want this to be pretty fast, actually. Here, let's make this go all the way to 256. It's a bit more responsive, this one. Let's see if we can handle 128, and we'll want to put the front motors at 128 as well. Oh, they already are at 128, and the reason why is because for some reason they just weren't spinning as fast. I don't know why, but maybe they don't have, I don't know, they weren't as responsive, so maybe something to do with the mass, maybe because they're on a physics object that's on another physics object. I don't know what the exact reason is, I just know that they weren't spinning as fast. So I set them to double the speed to kind of match with how fast they should be spinning. So now the front wheels are at 256 and the rear ones are at 128. And even now, it seems the rear wheels are spinning faster. They start faster. Okay, let me come to a complete stop. And we can see that the rear wheels start to spin faster. And the front wheels keep spinning a bit longer. I'm gonna double check to make sure that they're all indeed locked. Yeah, these are locked. Those are also locked. By the way, these are locked as well. These are the ones that steer the wheels. And then I'm gonna check on the oh, I hate it when this happens. This is the most annoying thing. I just want to spin this back around. Okay. You have to wait till the text appears and then you can put it to locked or unlocked. Okay. So they're all at locked, yet they have a slightly different behavior. That's still a mystery for me. I have not figured that one out yet. So this car is, one advantage it has over my medium-sized car is that, well, you can steer without stopping, right? So what happens with the medium car that kind of has a tank steering is that when you turn, it reverses the direction of one of the sides, so you don't necessarily stop, but you'll definitely slow down. So look how much bigger this car is next to the small one. And then I have over there, I have the other two parts. Let's go have one last look at all three cars. So this car, you could put attachments to it if you wanted to. I mean, you could technically make it survival friendly, though that would take a lot of tweaking. But yeah, everything's possible. You can also make a two-wheel drive version of this with just the rear wheel spinning. I don't recommend it because It sometimes makes the front wheels be a little slow to start spinning, and though it's doable, I don't recommend it. And there we go. So I hope this video was useful to you guys. I hope you found it informative, and I hope it helps you in your own quest to build your own cars. Thank you for watching.